Hey, welcome. Welcome. This is our supporting Spanish-speaking families. This is part of our inclusionary practices, which we will go into a little bit more. But first, I'm going to launch a quick poll. You can just let us know what your role is today.
I did not get the poll. It could be because I'm using the browser.
That's interesting. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to end that poll, and I am going to post the survey link into the chat, and then we can do it that way. And that will be one survey that you can also take at the end. And then Sandra and Brenda? Of course.
Okay, would you like to
Sure, I'll do the
share
first
first?
one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm Ramona Hattendorf. I'm the Director of Public Policy at the ARC of King County. Joining us here is also Rachel Nemhauser. Rachel, you want to say hi? Yeah, so together we lead the outreach and advocacy team at the ARC of King County. And we're really excited that we're working with the Inclusionary Practices Technical Network this year to host a series of classes. Some of them are directed at professionals on how to support families and individuals with disabilities, and some are aimed at the families on how to better navigate special education services and what this whole concept of inclusion means. And you can get more information at the links provided. I'm happy to have you here. Inclusionary Practices, it's a statewide effort, and it has many different partners. One of those partners is the Family Engagement Collaborative, and we're a member of the Family Engagement Collaborative. Other members include Education Northwest, PAVE, and Roots of Inclusion. Thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome. I would like to give a moment to my colleague Brenda to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda, and I'm the parent-to-parent coordinator for Spanish-speaking families here at the ARC of King County. And, just a little bit about my background. My passion began when I was just a child. I was used many times to interpret for my neighbors, for friends, for families. So I was known as the little girl who helped literally everybody on the block. So from very little, I knew that, my passion was to help others. And this is why I am where I am today. I do have an adult brother who is 39 years old with cerebral palsy and autism. I am also his legal guardian. And because of him, I'm also, who I am today. He sort of made this pathway for me. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And as I say, my name is Sandra Urite. I'm the Multicultural Family Support Program Manager here at the ARC of King County. And I'm from Argentina. And with my husband, we moved in here to Washington State in 2001. I'm also a mom. My daughter is around here. And also she's, I would say, the one that marked my path, working in this field because she is almost 22 and she was diagnosed with Cri-du-Chat syndrome when she was a baby. So for me, my path started as a mom and then getting involved with the ARC. Now working at the ARC for around 9 years. So I'm really also happy to be here and also to serve the Spanish speaking community and with families that have a loved one with intellectual or developmental disabilities. And a little bit of what the agenda today would be, we would talk about the Arc of King County, who we are. We also talk about the programs that we have to offer to the families. And then we will talk more about the cultural characteristics of the Spanish-speaking families and what are sometimes their views on disability and some tips for professionals to work and serve Spanish-speaking families. And then we will share how, you can contact us at any time if you need our help or support. Okay, so who we are, my daughter is really excited because she's the one with the pink sweater here in the picture. So the Arc of King County promotes and protects the rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities so we can all live, work, learn, and play in the community. And the ARC is driven by the fundamental belief that everyone deserves to write their own story. That means, real access for education, meaningful employment, quality healthcare, and, community connections. At our chapter, because we are not the only one, we offer information and family support, system navigation, education and civic engagement support. We also run supported living program for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we also help or refer, families when they contact us or people with disability when they contact us about many topics. The most common are special education, housing, and Medicaid long-term supports. We have right here our website, and right there we have a lot of really incredible, good resources, community calendar to see all the activities and presentations we are doing during the year. So and also we have a part of our website is completely in Spanish. So also Spanish speaking families can access the same information in their own language. And right here is just to mention some of the programs that we have at the ARC. As we say, we do all the time disability related workshops, classes, and presentations. We have the Healthy Relationships Program, Housing Stability, Information and Family Support, Parent-to-Parent Supported Living for Adults with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, the IEP Parent-Partner Program, and the Silver Tsunami, that is the support for aging families and caregivers of people with IDD I don't know. I think we have a lot more to offer, but we don't have enough slides to, to put everything here in the presentation. And now I would like to give the opportunity to Brenda to share a little bit more about, the Spanish community, the Spanish-speaking community.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, so I will be talking a little bit about, these three phrases, Latino, Hispanic, and Spanish. These are not the same because Hispanic describes a person who is from or has ancestors from a Spanish-speaking country or territory. The definition of Hispanic excludes Brazil because Portuguese is the country's primary language, but it does include Spain. Latino is geographic term which referred to a person from Latin America or of Latin American descent. This includes Brazil, but it excludes Spain. And Spanish. The word Spanish refers to both a language and a nationality. A person who speaks Spanish is Hispanic. A person who is from Spain or has family origins in Spain is Spanish. And also, please remember, Latino is not a race.
Very important distinction.
Okay, our characteristics. There are about 20 countries where Spanish is the main language. A lot of people assume we're all the same. There are great diversity between the countries and cultures of Spanish-speaking families. Some immigrants speak one of the many indigenous dialects. A little more about our characteristics. Differences in the Spanish language. Each country has its own style, tone, and even vocab when using Spanish. The same word could have a completely different meaning depending on the country. For example, in Mexico, a torta, cake, is a sandwich, while in Argentina, torta, it's a cake. Family ties and extended family relationships are very important. In traditional Latino communities, Mexico and many of the Central American Latino countries, there are well-defined gender roles, and the men usually carry the dominant role. And religion is very important. Catholicism is a dominant religion. So our views on disability, some gender differences, denial of disability for men, endurance and acceptance for women. Some parents believe their child's disability is a result of an external, non-biological force, such as mal de ojo, which means evil eye, or sustos, which means frights. Spirituality may influence families' beliefs regarding disability, which sometimes they may say it's a gift from God, or it's a punishment, or it's a shame, etc. Overprotection and low expectations for the person with disability. Very strong family bonds can become a two-sided coin for people with disabilities, being taken care of versus becoming independent. Cultural beliefs place the responsibility for caring for a disabled child or adult on the family, especially mothers. Women are seen as the primary caretakers. A little more on views and disability. So families more willing to join support networks through personal connections rather than responding to flyers that require calling someone they do not know for information. Services for an individual might be a family decision or might require the involvement of the family. The acceptance surrounding a disability and how it is going to be handled might also be a family decision. Lack of long-term planning for their loved one with disability. So within the diverse Spanish-speaking community, each person experiences the United States differently in terms of access to learning English, a job, and financial security, as well as housing, work visas, and citizenship pathways. Each of these factors makes each family unique and layered.
Mhm. Um, Brenda, I will want to just add that this is, I think, so important, this information to be shared with, people here, the people that are serving, professionals serving our community, because as we know, unfortunately, sometimes there is this tendency to think that we are all exactly the same, and we share a lot as a as a community, but at the same time we come here from some very different places that is very difficult to just think or plan like one solution for all, works for all. And I think it's so important to share how our community share a lot of important points, but at the same time we have those differences that makes necessary for professionals to understand that to better serve our community. So I think all you mentioned is really, really important.
I love that. Thank you, Sandra. So here we have tips for professionals. So make consistent efforts to learn about cultures, identities, and beliefs of the families you work with. This is kind of what Sandra was talking about. Build cultural competency at both systemic and individual levels so that all families feel welcome in all events and engagement opportunities. Change the attitudes and biases to better support diverse families. Use a needs assessment to identify barriers that discourage families from accessing services. Create a warm, safe, and inviting environment where parents will feel welcomed. Ask the families you work with about issues that are relevant to them. Listen and learn. Be flexible. Less terminology and jargon. Avoid acronyms or explain what the acronym stands for.
That's so important. As
Mhm.
a person who's English is not my first language, I will say that sometimes it was so difficult navigating, the system with my daughter when the professionals were talking to me using all those acronyms, and I was like, trying to understand the language, not just the English, but also, each system has a kind of their own language, and, disability is also the same. So it's so important for professionals to understand that as a parent, we don't know, we need, the information in a more simple and clear way to understand it.
Yes. A few more tips for professionals. Build a trusting relationship with families. Encourage them to speak up and ask questions because often Spanish-speaking families will just agree with everything, even if they don't understand what is being said. Focus on improving communication with culturally and linguistically diverse families. Respect, empathy, and flexibility regarding communication. Agencies need to include bilingual, bicultural professionals, and it is important that these agencies and programs are in touch with the norms and cultural values of the population being served. And make it easy for families to find important resources in Spanish. Make it easy for families to participate in events. This might require the use of translators or community facilitators. Families may be unable to engage due to work expectations, transportation, or childcare considerations, or other logistical factors. However, they may also feel disconnected from or distrustful of the agency systems. Outreach and education programs that can provide information about programs and opportunities available to them. Parents can't ask for a service or support if they don't know about it. Be patient. Remember, parents can't retain all the information, and repetition can be helpful. Also, remind parents of their rights.
Mhm. Yes, I think, Brenda, this is another, I would say these tips are important, but uh, as a parent, I remember sometimes during my journey with my daughter, really just receiving a ton of information, but really not understanding because, as I said, maybe sometimes the language is not clear. It's more like um, professional, and it's more difficult to understand. But also there are some logistics that sometimes people don't think about it. Most of our families, of the families we work with, maybe they have like two jobs, to support themselves. So sometimes maybe you are doing an event in the afternoon, but the parents are also working at that time, because they have I'm sorry, I apologize for the noise. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind when we are planning an event for Spanish speaking families, for Latino families, to understand that sometimes it's difficult for them, to have childcare to assist to, or presentation or event, or maybe they, as I said, they have two jobs and it's impossible for them, sometimes to assist to these kind of events. It's not that they don't care, but they're unable to really participate. And also is so important to explain families what the services, available are, because it's true, families are not going to ask for something they don't know that if it exists or not. So knowing what is available for the families is also very important, so families can, review the information and says, oh, okay, I would like to apply for this service or for this program. So, and, give time people and families to process all that information. Is not easy. Sometimes it's a lot. So, giving time, be patient that, with the right support, families, I'm sure will participate more and will be able to, apply or try to access more services and resources in the community.
And then they will thrive.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. Okay, so, oh no, I think it's this one. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, a few more tips for professionals. Use the parent's preferred way of communication, either face-to-face, calls, or texts as much as possible. Never assume that because families can speak a little English, they don't need an interpreter. Always, always, always ask. Ensure your materials are reading level appropriate for the specific community you serve. When translating materials, keep vocabulary simple. Partner with respected community organizations and community leaders that already serve Spanish-speaking families. Do not have assumptions about the immigration status of the families. Avoid asking about immigration status unless it's relevant to your work. If it is relevant, be highly sensitive in the way that you ask that question.
Yeah,
Mhm.
especially I think right now is very important because families are, scared. So it's important to make them feel safe and feel that they're not judged because of their immigration status. And as I say, sometimes we at the ARC, we don't care immigration status
Yeah.
of, no, but sometimes to be sure that a child, for example, can apply for a service or a benefit, we need to know if the child is a citizen or not. But we need to be sensitive on the way and we ask those questions because we don't want families to feel like rejected or judged. So it's very important.
Or even afraid. Oh, like,
Hmm.
if they're asking for immigration status, what are they going to do with the information, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so about the use of interpreters. Interpreters often don't know the content or language. They give their own opinions and they do not respect confidentiality. Families often do not know the role of the interpreter versus the professional. They don't know how to request an interpreter, and they don't know what to do if there is no interpreter or the interpreter is of poor quality. So therefore, professionals should pay attention to the quality of the interpreter, assess the family's understanding, reschedule if there is no interpreter or the interpreter is of poor quality, collect family feedback about the service of an interpreter to ensure quality of the service. I think this is so important, Sandra, because a lot of the times I've sat in meetings where there's an interpreter and the interpreter is not using, the appropriate language. And it's not their fault. I mean, it's not the same if you go interpret at a court versus a school. I mean, it's very different. Same thing for, medical offices. But I think it's important for families, professionals, to know that they can stop whatever meeting, or whatever appointment they're at and ask for a new interpreter.
Mhm. Yeah, that's, interpreters. We can talk a whole day about the interpreter services, and we obviously we are glad that we have the ability, to have interpreters for the families, but at the same time, we need to, be careful that the quality of the interpreter services is good, because it's crucial to the understanding of the family, the mutual understanding with the professional. And as you say, it's not the same to interpreter for the court or at school, because there are different, you know different languages
Mhm.
that you and sometimes that's a problem, because maybe uh, as you say, I've been with families at IEP meetings at school, and the interpreter, you were able to notice that was not really used to the vocabulary, the goals, or IEP, or what is this. And that's a big issue, and that's a big barrier for a good communication.
Mhm.
And I know, because also as a parent, sometimes you don't want to say, excuse me, I think this is not working for
Mhm.
us. We need maybe to reschedule, or we need a different interpreter.
Mhm.
People feels that sometimes that, especially for families, it's like, no, I cannot do that. So
Mhm.
sometimes they just stay in the meeting, and they don't understand what is saying to them, but they're, afraid to say something.
They're
And
afraid to speak up. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And so I understand that for the professional, obviously, if the professional doesn't speak Spanish, maybe they're not really aware if the interpreter is doing a good job or not. But I
Mhm.
think there are ways sometimes to know that, to try to, or
Yeah.
also assess the family, if it's, and if they are understanding, if they feel that this is maybe more complicated. And if it's necessary, I know that is nobody wants to cancel or reschedule sometimes meetings, but if communication is a key. And so it's important to have the right interpreter, helping
Mhm.
the family to communicate. And another experience, I was thinking about what you say, that when you were a child, you were helping, your neighbors. And
Mhm.
sometimes, especially I see this at school most of the times, they have someone, working in school that speaks Spanish, and say, oh, okay, this person can help us. And the person is, probably the nicest person, but is not an interpreter.
Mhm.
So, it's a really difficult job. And so we cannot allow uh, brothers, or older brothers or sisters, or the people, or the person that works in the kitchen, to
Mhm.
make the role of interpreter, because it could be a problem in the communication. And that's the reason, we really need to use certified interpreters, so we know that they know their job.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Maybe just with a little more training, this won't be a problem in the future if agencies before they hire, they either provide or give them information on where they can get more training.
yeah, I think that, and for me, at least, is something that I think about all the time. Is like, as you have doctors, some are, cardiologists, and others are, I don't know, neurologists. To have interpreters with expertise in, special education, or others on core legal procedures, or DDA. I think that will be absolutely fantastic, to have interpreters that have that more, complete knowledge about the language, speaking during those meetings. So hopefully, in the future we can have a better interpretation services.
Mhm.
Uh, so, and right here we have the information for anybody that wants to contact us. We have an information and referral English line, and also we have this exactly the same, but for Spanish-speaking people. And also our colleague Jay Kim, she can, answer, or communicate by email in Korean. So that's another wonderful option. And uh, let me see. I think, Ramona, I don't know if you want to add something else.
Yes, we still have time for questions and all that good stuff. But I'm just going to plop in before we forget. I'm going to plop in the survey link, and if you could take that, it's a real big help for us. Thanks so much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And now we have some time for questions. Uh, I don't know if I can not see the chat, so I don't know if there is a question there or not. But let me just stop sharing.
This is Rachel,
There's
and
no
so far there are
question.
no questions in the chat.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
Oh, I just
Oh.
said so far there are no questions in
Oh,
the chat.
okay.
That was great. That was so good.
I think we were really fast.
I don't think there's any rules about fast. Tammy, do you have any questions for us? It's okay, no pressure.
Also, I think I think this is a topic that is obviously, for, I think Brenda maybe thinks the same. It's so important for us because trying to, to receive support as a parent. Oh, she said she doesn't have any questions. It's so important. Sometimes it's so difficult because, the language is one of the biggest
It's a
barrier, I
bear
think.
to overcome.
Yes, it's really difficult. But also sometimes, maybe you are with a professional that maybe obviously the language is a barrier, but you can feel that the professional really cares about the family and really cares to try to, really connect with them and explain things in a simple way, and that they're going, beyond their role to try to be sure that the family is receiving the
Right.
information and support. So and for our community, sometimes it's difficult because one thing that I don't remember if we mentioned it during the presentation is that in our countries we see professionals as, if they say something, that's the truth. If the
That's the fact,
doctor,
and there's no,
exactly,
Yeah.
Usually you don't go and argue with the doctor or with the teacher because, you think, okay, if they say this is because it's the fact. So when we move here and here, we are encouraged to, say, excuse me, one moment, I think that's not true, or that's not correct, or that's
Or
not.
are you considering this, or have you thought about that? Right.
Yeah. So it's like a new, and you have to rebrain your
Mhm.
everything and think in a different way. And it's sometimes it's scary, families don't feel sometimes that they have like the right to argue with
But then I
the
also
professional.
know that I assume at least that they're also seeing the other kids accessing things that they want for their kids, of
Yeah.
course. And so there's that dilemma of like, I don't
And
want to have to
they
argue
don't
or have
know.
to push, but I want the best for my kid, like every parent does. And I see
Yes.
that dilemma play out quite often.
Yes, yes, and we work really hard, encouraging families and empowering them to, obviously, with respect. You have the right to, say what you think, and if you're not okay with a decision, you have the right to say it. And the same when we try to prepare families to be part of a IEP meeting, is
Right.
you are a part of this team, and it's so difficult. I didn't knew it for many years. I was just there sitting and agreeing to everything they say to me. And so I know that takes a lot of time, and
It does.
encourage to families to say
And being given permission, like, no, this is the place, do it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then
Wow.
can I just add one quick thought to that, is
Please
that
do.
you will see a huge growth for families when they first start off with, their child who has IDD versus when the child is 18 per se.
Mhm.
I mean, there is so much growth in that parent, and it's so amazing to see, and it's something, that I've seen, I've witnessed it, and they almost come from being in a shell to coming out of that shell. And it's because of all the information that they've retained throughout those years that they're like, wait a second, I do have a voice. I can talk, So it's beautiful to see.
It's
once
really
that's
amazing to watch and to be able to facilitate that and be a part, play a
Mhm.
role in it.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes families came to meetings and says, "Oh yeah, I had a meeting with the teacher and I said, I remember during one of your presentations." And you feel so proud because you see that, as Brenda says, families getting, growing, and they're, feeling more powerful and feeling more empowered to, talk. But and I assume that this is exactly the same for any other immigrant community. Is besides the language, I think we face probably similar barriers. But to be able to serve a community, you need to know that community. You need to learn from them and see how is the best way to connect with the community, to share the information or share the resources, because as individuals we are all different. So it's really
That's right.
important.
And
Yeah.
I think about that as a person who is not from the Spanish speaking community and who's not from an immigrant community, but I serve those communities every day. And I would imagine some of our listeners or viewers might be in that same position, that I have had to really take the time to, like you said, learn from the communities I'm serving, learn from the leaders of those communities, like where the challenges are, where the barriers are, and what they want from me. It's not me telling them, here's how I can help you. It's
Hmm.
it's the reversing it and listening what kind of help is needed and wanted.
Yes,
That's
yes.
very true. And this is where our the our meetings that we facilitate, Sandra and I, this is where they come in hand, because parents who are just starting off, they see what parents who their child is already 18 and already an adult. I mean, they see everything they know and they want to be that parent, right? They want to know everything that parent knows. They want to walk the same path that that parent walked in order to get where they're at. And I see that with parents all the time. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful to work, you know, with a community that you know can grow, and you just have to give them a little push. That's it.
Yeah.
And the access to the information.
Mm-hmm. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because also for me, when I work with families, I'm also in that position that I need to learn from them because, for example, I'm from South America and we have some things that we are different with people that are maybe from Central America. So I need to really sit and listen to the families and to learn from them to be able to, you know, serve them in the best way and not think because I'm this way, okay, everyone will need
Right.
exactly the
Or
same.
that there's a right way and a wrong way. There's just
Yeah.
different ways.
Yes. And I'm really always so proud of the families we work with because for some of them they face so many barriers, you know, coming here from sometimes really poor communities in their countries. And you know, imagine you know, moving your family to a country speaks a different language, it's a different culture, and then you have a child with disability, and you have to learn to navigate a system that is for you is a big unknown. So I'm really proud of the hard work that these families are doing every day to, you know, try to provide the best for their kids.
That gives me goosebumps. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the I know because sometimes happens to me too that also when I can communicate in English, if I call somewhere and someone there says, "Oh, I speak Spanish," it's like, "Oh, wonderful," you know, because it's a different level of I don't know the communication when you speak with someone that speak your own language,
Course.
and I know that when families call the ARC and you know are able to find out, oh, Brenda speaks Spanish, Sandra speaks, is for them also such a relief, you know,
And it's
because
comforting. It's comforting to know that they can call a place and they'll have somebody that will just meet them where they're at and just really hear them out and, you know, without judging because they don't know English. It's like, you know, we've been where you're at. We've
Yeah.
been there, we've done that. So we're not here to judge. We're just here to help.
yep, exactly.
Hey, Sandra and Brenda, I'm wondering in your journey, especially I'm thinking more of you, Sandra, right now, because I know you've gone through this as a parent. Was there any particular school or educator? Do you remember like in sitting in those teams, like you were talking about when you first started out, you didn't say anything, you just nodded. And now you're a person who helps people understand this is how the system works, this is what you're right, maybe you want to ask for this. What was an early example or what changed for you? Like was there something in particular in that IEP team that they did? Was it external? Someone like say like Rachel saying, did you know, or Brenda, I know you could do X, Y, and Z. What helped shifted you from being the quiet person to speaking up?
Okay, if not, I'm
Sandra's origin
I,
story.
yes, I'm not saying the ARC because I work for the ARC, but it was really it was my connection with the ARC as a mom because that was my first connection, and especially for school, it was connection with Robin, our former executive director. She she teach me a lot, but I remember I think it was our first like one-on-one meeting where she explained to me this whole IEP thing that it was completely. And my daughter was like in third, fourth grade when this happens. So it was many years of me just sitting there. But when she explained, my role, and I start to attend workshops. I remember the first one, the big one was the ambassador classes in English. I took that in English and then in Spanish. That makes the poof, the brain switch. Understand that, okay, here I have rights. I'm not just someone sitting there agreeing to everything. I have the opportunity to say what I think, or if I'm not, if I not agree with something. And then I knew that learning and getting more information was the key. So I started to, take all the uh, um, uh, workshops and kind of classes possible to learn, and to grow as a parent. Yeah. And I know that there are other also organizations that do similar work as the ARC. But for me, I was lucky that through a mom that at school, she told me about the ARC, and she connected me with the ARC, and I start like, for me, I always said this, like my brain was like, you open that this is a new war. Yeah, because is when I started to, is when my daughter started to get services, because I started to learn how, navigate and how to ask. For example, for DDA, she was on no pay services for many years, and then, through the ARC, I learned, okay, how I need to request the services, and that makes uh, fundamental change for our family, because respite, we were not able to get access to respite for so many years, and it was a point we were in a crisis. It wasn't a crisis really for us, because I was desperate. I was in need to, to have a break, and to be able to learn that, it was, for us as a family, was a bless, because really that information um, helped us to learn how to start to get Caroline on, getting services. And it's not perfect, but it was obviously much better than nothing. So I'm forever, I always say this, besides my work here, I forever, grateful to the art, because it makes a big change for us as a family.
That was
Oh.
unscripted too. You just said that about the
Yeah.
ARC without
Yeah.
anyone asking you to.
Yeah, because, and I always, when I have a connection with a new family, I always say, I'm not saying this because they pay me to work here. It's really because I think could be an example of what families can get from the ARC,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
it was really that important for us, because we were so lost and so alone as a family. Also, we don't have any other family members here. We're all in Argentina, so it was really, those years were horrible for us. Feeling so alone, and then finding a community, finding a place, as Brenda said, where you feel welcome, and you feel that you're not judged. And as I love that during our meetings, I always say, I'm not an expert here. Maybe I know a little bit more, because but we are here to share the ideas, the resources, and so I'm forever grateful for that.
And can I just add to that, Sandra, that walking into an IEP, knowing that it's just you and your son or your daughter, it's so different walking into an IEP knowing that you have the ARC and the ARC has got your back.
Yep.
So different. So, so different.
Yeah.
And that's something that families express to me all the time. So,
Yeah.
And Brenda, I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that. Is that you're there physically, or is it just knowing that if they have a question, they
yeah,
know who to
no,
go to?
yeah, knowing that if they have a question regarding the IEP, or one of the teachers said something that they weren't liking about the goals, or the goals are not being met, whatever the case is, knowing that they have somebody that they can call and talk to and then say, what do you think about this? Or what advice can you give me? Like, have you gone through this? Do you know a family that has gone through this? And then we just, we brainstorm and we go from there.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe it's important. So where I'm coming from, what I'm thinking of is, a school, would this have the same effect if it was somebody in the school district who was there available to answer questions? Or do you think there's something from an external community support group that sort of
It's the external
is
community because
external?
this is what families are thinking. Well, if I get the, advice from another teacher that's in the same school district, she's only going to tell me whatever this other teacher is trying to tell me. But if I hear from somebody else that's external, they're not going to tell me something just because they want to, be in the same boat with the school district. They're going to tell me something completely different, maybe something that a family's already gone through, something related. So this is where it really gets, I mean, for families, just the fact that, they go in this IEP without, basically blindfolded,
Mhm.
because they don't know, first of all, they don't know the language, they don't know, anything. All they have is their son or their daughter, and that they're trying to have their goals being met. And when they're not being met, they can't go discuss it with another teacher, because they feel like that teacher, they're just going to tell them whatever it is that they want to hear. Versus someone from the ARC, we're going to say, hey, well, if this route didn't work, go this route. We're going to open up their minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I will, I always remember, uh, the first time that I went to an IEP meeting, my daughter's IEP meeting, where I previously requested the draft of the IEP, and I took the time at home to read it, and highlight it, and I was putting like stickers, making marks with questions, and always said, "Oh, I knew I need a camera to just, you know." Tape the
Record.
reactions,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Record.
eyes of the teacher when he saw me arrive with the draft and all my questions and my marks. It was like, oh, this lady. Yeah, I think sometimes that happens when they see that families are, learning, and they know or have more information, or they have been, supporting from an agency, that, okay, here is a parent that is going to do what, we're supposed to do there, be part of the team,
It's
discuss, and
it almost gives the school, like they almost get frightened, because they're like, uh-oh, we better be good, we better be going by the books, or else, that's kind of how I see it, right?
yes, yes. But it's, I sometimes I feel sad that, for example, for me, where so many years without knowing, so nobody
Mhm.
from school really took the time at maybe at the first IEP to, maybe a simple explanation. Okay, this is, here we do this, and this is, IEP means this, or what we are going to do here is this and that. Simple maybe explanation about the meeting, or what it was, the IP, and it was nothing from the
Yeah,
school.
that was my
And
experience too.
yeah, so as I say, really, I was just sitting there and listening, and at the end, I was signing that I was there, and that was all. And it's sad because uh, I miss maybe years of giving my opinion, and I don't want the same to happen to other families. So
So Ramona, going back to your first question, this has got to be it then. The answer to your question is Latino families have regret of not have spoken up earlier
Okay.
versus because they learned how to speak up later, but had they spoken up the very first IEP meeting, gosh, where would they have been at, right?
Right.
Yeah.
mhm, yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's such a poignant point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got another question for you.
Mhm.
So on the concept of inclusion, which is a lot of people are just kind of like, what does it mean? Let's get our heads around it. And so you've got special education services, and especially for children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, these tend to be in a self-contained or a separate or a segregated learning environment. But not for all kids. And then increasingly, there's this push to make sure that we're actually able to serve all children better in the general education setting with services that come to there in the maximum way possible. So do you see the Spanish speaking community, the families that you support, do they even know what's going on? Or do they feel they're part of this discussion? Do they know sort of the difference between a separate setting and the general education setting? I'm just kind of wondering what your take is, given that you work with a lot of different families. What's their take or concept of let's be inclusive, let's have inclusive learning? What do you think?
Brenda, you wanna say
So,
something?
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think some moms are very aware about that, how their kids are not included. I mean, that you have general ed and then you have special ed. There's moms that are very aware, and then there's moms that aren't. Because, we go back to what we were talking about before. There's moms who they're just gonna let the teacher say whatever and then do whatever they think is right. They're
Mhm.
not gonna have a say in it. But then there's moms that are aware and that are like, wait a second, why does my child, I know my child, has IDD, but why does he have to be secluded? Why can't he be in a general ed classroom, but have somebody there to support him? And if you think about it, it's true. I mean, I worked as a one-on-one paraeducator, and I a lot of the things we did in the special ed classroom, we could do it in the general education setting, but just obviously having somebody there, by their side helping them. There's nothing different aside from they're secluding the children because they have IDD,
Mhm.
and
Uh,
that's sad,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
The
And
kids can go out at the same recess time that the other kids do, and the kids know, and that's what's sad. Because my one-on-one would tell me. So there's kids out there. Why aren't I out there?
Yeah.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
it's coming to realize it. It's a sad situation for them.
And another thing, Ramona, that I noticing that the other side of the coin is that sometimes I think some districts are just putting kids with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the general education settings without the proper support that the student, but also the teacher needs, to be successful. So I've been supporting a couple of families where their kids are in general education settings, but they are not really receiving the supports they need there. So they are feeling frustrated because they are not progressing,
Yeah.
and they feel like they are just putting the child sitting there and say, oh, we are including the child, but that's all. And I know that that's frustrating for the teachers too, because if you don't have all the supports that the teachers also need to be able to provide education to all the students, it's going to fail. So it's good that these conversations are, happening, and that maybe districts are opening more to include students on the general education setting, but it's not just that. It has to be with, hand in hand with all the supports, the necessary support for the student to be successful in a general setting. Because it's sad that then sometimes they feel, and I know this mom told me, that the student doesn't want to go to school anymore because he feels that he's, always behind the rest. So, and feels like he's not really supported. And I think that's could be maybe difficult sometimes for families to say something, because a mom told me what I do. I ask the school to put my son in a self-contained classroom, and we know that that's not the answer or the solution. But sometimes I think that families feel frustrated that they are okay, it's in a general education classroom, but that's it. They are not getting the support. So it's really sad. Fear, yeah, yes, that's true.
Yeah, there was for viewers, there was a comment in the chat that possibly families have a fear of retribution.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. And then also I imagine just shifting and understanding, it's like, or being able to see what does support in that classroom look like what can it look like? So it's something similar, like you're talking about in the early days, you don't even know what to ask for. You don't even know if you should be asking for something. So if we are going to shift, if a school district is going to shift and kind of change up how they're doing practices, and some are taking the extra effort to make sure that families understand this is what you should be able to expect, and this is what it would look like. Like maybe you were supported this way. And as you put in, Brenda, it sounds like to some extent it could be the same. It's just a setting. And making sure those services are actually going, but then perhaps in some instances it is a little different. But having support so they know what to expect and what to ask for.
And, Ramona, if I can add, obviously coming from my background where I have worked with teachers, I think their fear is really also, if I put a child with IDD in a general ed class, I've seen that, kids hurt each other all the time in the, in the classroom where they were at. But when I would push out with my one-on-one to general ed classroom, he never harmed anybody. Never. So I think, I don't know, maybe ultimately it comes down to money, funds that the school doesn't want to go out of their way to push kids into general ed classroom because they know it's going to cost them a lot of more money. I don't know.
And unfortunately, we know that sometimes the schools are not really prepared to work with the students, with the behaviors, and work in a positive way to make sure that the student can learn in a safe environment, and also the rest of the kids are safe and learning together. And so I think sometimes it's schools make the easiest decision, like, oh no, put it on, a self-contained classroom, so it's easier that way, instead of trying to, okay, how can we provide, the necessary support to this student to be successful with kids also in general education. And I think also part of besides the educational part, the social part of be included with other kids is so important, because if we want the society to accept people with disabilities, we need to start to, be with them all the time and all different settings, because it happens if you were all the time with just kids without disabilities, probably the first time you see someone with a disability, you will be like, "Oh, what is this?" And so when you have kids, growing and learning together since they're, 2, 3 years old, it would be the normal for them. It would not be like, oh, this one is different. And we can
And I
dream.
think, I think kids will adapt so well to, having everybody included into the classroom, because my one-on-one, he loved being in the general ed classroom. He would hi-fi all the kids. He would say hi to all of them. When they would say hi back, I cannot tell you guys, like, his smile was like literally ear to ear, how excited he was that he felt he was being included.
Hmm.
And it's something that sometimes we don't or teachers don't realize, that what am I doing to a child if I'm secluding him versus letting him be with the general ed classroom, and just letting him take all of that in, and they'll get used to that. And like I said, I don't recall him ever harming anybody in that classroom. It was all
And
the
what is the
opposite.
message also?
He loved being in that classroom.
Hmm.
So yeah, what is it? What message was he giving exactly?
And then we hear from families, especially when their kids start to, get on the teenager years, that parents feel frustrated because sometimes they don't have friends. They don't have, other the same age kids friends, or they are not invited to birthday parties or some kind of, fun activity they are doing in the community. And that's also connected with this separation that they have at school. It's like, oh, right there is the classroom that, all the different kids go there. And how can you can grow a friendship or have a group of
If they're being
friends,
secluded at school.
yeah, if you are being secluded all the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate your insight on that. Thank
You're welcome. I love these conversations.
Me too. We can keep going.
Yes.
Look, me three. I'm learning so much. I love hearing others' perspectives, so I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think I've taken away, well, first of all, you have to start with your basic language access, and you have to take in consideration it needs to be good quality language access. So there's
Yes.
that one. And then for families, just making sure that they feel welcomed and at ease. It's okay to ask questions. We're a collaborative team. Hopefully the school's treating everyone like a collaborative team. So I've heard that is really critical. Understanding that families may actually have a lot of questions, and they may be not necessarily speaking up, or they just don't realize yet they have a lot of questions because they really haven't taken in the information and they're really not even sure what's going on. So the language access and the welcoming and the patience and the encouragement and the checking, going
Yeah.
back. I imagine like the checking, a tip for that, would that be something like just pausing the conversation to make sure, do you understand? Do you have any questions? Is there anything extra other than something basic like that that would be helpful? Is it just a simple check-in?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But sometimes I think we have this feeling as parents going to meetings that they are like, okay, by the clock. Okay. Yeah. Really
Okay.
fast. We like, it's like we through all the information and okay, we're done. Bye. And that's all. And as I say, you don't have the opportunity or the time to process all that information to ask questions. So I would say that maybe we see this at IP meetings most of the time because it's like they have, oh, we have 30 minutes, 45, 1 hour, and they're not really allowing the meeting to function as a team collaboration. It's
Yeah.
more like someone just reading or saying a lot of information and then sign it. That's all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And then it also sounded like, and this would be, I think, true for, various immigrant families, certainly not just Spanish speaking families, but if the school had perhaps a list of community organizations where families could turn to if they, anything from questions or just being able to find friends and people they can relate with and share with, that might be helpful if schools had offer, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's a bit overwhelming to be in the system. Here's some resources for you, people you might want to talk to. That would be helpful, right? Okay.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes, totally.
Yeah.
And then for the kids, making sure that they have a sense of belonging. Yeah. What is the school? How is the school designed to make sure that they feel that belonging? That people are smiling back and high-fiving back and making room at the table for them to scoot up and learn alongside them.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, I think if all of this, gets implemented, I think we'll have a very bright future. Because if I look back to when my brother was in school, he would get bullied a lot. They would laugh at him, they would tease him. I mean, whatever comes to your mind, you name it. Like they did that to him because he was different, you know? And then, of course, it also comes down to parents. What are you teaching your kids, right? Are you teaching your kids to be nice to somebody that's different than you, or are you teaching them that it's okay for you to be mean just because they're different? So let's hope for a bright future.
Yeah. At least we are trying to.
Yeah. Oh, Rachel, we can't hear you.
Oh, I just said we're doing our part. We're doing our best.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions. I know I really appreciate your time and your expertise. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. We are happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. This was great, and hopefully a lot of families can get this information as well. This will be great for them and professionals, because
Professionals, yeah.
this is like raw, right? This wasn't planned. Like what we've spoken right
Yeah,
now.
this whole conversation.
Yeah,
Right.
this was great.
Yeah.
So for viewers, I hope you take our survey. I will be posting that when I have hopefully you access the webinar, and as you access what this is, you will also have access to our PowerPoint, and all the links will be there, resources for us. And yeah, I hope you also feel free to reach out to the ARC if we can help you. We work in King County. Please also just reach out if you're somewhere else, because if there's an ARC in your area, like if we say you're in the eastern part of the state, there are groups in the eastern part of the state, including the ARC of Spokane, the ARC of Tri-Cities, and other non-ARC organizations. And so we might be able to refer you to someone. So please do reach out if you have a question. And now I'm gonna stop the recording. And if anybody has any questions or wants to continue, feel free. But thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining.